Welcome to this next video tutorial on our Inventor Fundamentals class from WSI. In this lesson we'll be looking at creating your first Inventor part file. We'll also be looking at the XYZ axis and planes that exist in our 3D model space, and you'll be starting your first sketch on a plane that you'll select. When we look at creating your first part file, we'll start by opening a part file using a standard metric template. We'll then take the opportunity to review the Inventor interface in a bit more detail, and we'll also look at saving and naming files in Inventor. When we move on to starting your first sketch, we'll first take the opportunity to look at the XYZ axis system. You'll need to consider the different two-dimensional planes that you can place your first sketch on, and that relates back to the XYZ axis. Once that's selected, you'll then be able to start your first sketch, and we'll briefly look at the coordinate system and origin points that will be used inside the Inventor sketch facility. Let's now start by opening a new Inventor part file. To do that, once the software is up and running, go to the top left hand side of the screen and click on the new icon under the Getting Started tab in the ribbon. This will open up the Create New File dialog box, where you'll see a number of different templates available to use. Firstly, make sure that you've selected the metric template option on the left hand side of the dialog box, and then find the standard millimeter IPT part file. So that's the standard metric Inventor part file template. Once that's selected, you can double click or click on the create button at the bottom, and this opens a new part. In the status bar at the top of the screen, we'll see a default part name which has been assigned to this new part. This part name only lasts as long as we save the file for the first time and give it a proper name, and the number also depends on how many new parts you've started in your current session of the software being open on the computer. You'll notice that the ribbons changed substantially from a moment ago. Now that we're actually in a part and can model in 3D, we've actually got a number of new tabs available. The main one that we'll be using is the 3D model tab. The tabs in Inventor are content sensitive, and so if you're doing a process that requires additional tools, an additional tab will be added to this list and put on the right hand end, and the tools that you require for that particular process will be available in that tab. On the left hand side here, you'll also notice that we've now got items inside the browser. It's headed with the part number. That'll change when we save the part. It's often a good idea to save your part file as soon as you open, so that should you have problems with computers, you don't lose any data. To do that, you can hit Control C. You can also go to the big eye in the top left hand corner and select Save, or you can also pick the Save icon on the shortcuts bar at the top. Okay, so here we are here, and it's asking us for a location for our new file. It's really important with Inventor that files are given good names and they're saved in folders which collect all the files which might be used for a particular project. Inventor generally doesn't like it when files are renamed outside the software system or relocated or deleted at a later date. So it's important that you specify a location for exercises in the first place. So if I go into an Inventor folder, I might create a new folder, and I'll just call this tutorial. Go into that folder, and I need to give this a part, and so a part name. So I'm just going to call this one block 1. Part name should be descriptive. So if it's a particular type of part that you're drawing, then make sure that the file name that you give it reflects that, so that 6 months later when you're looking for a particular part, you're going to be able to find it. Part names like the one that I've used here are not generally recommended. Once you've specified your part name and the location for it, click Save. You'll notice straight away that the name in the status bar at the top of the screen changes to your new file name, and also over here in the browser the new part name comes up at the top of the browser as well. So now that we've looked at opening and starting a new part file and then saving that, it's time to look at the coordinate system that we'll be working with in 3D. You've already seen in an earlier lesson how we manipulate and move in 3 dimensions. If I just free orbit a little bit to give us a better view of the icon in the bottom left hand corner, you can see that we've got 3 axes: the x-axis, the y-axis and the z-axis. These 3 axes define the 3 planes that we can create our initial sketch on. If we go up to the 3D model toolbar, you'll see that we've got the option to create a 2D sketch. We've also got the option to create a 3D sketch, but that's something we'll get into in the more advanced parts of the course later on. So for the moment, we just want a 2-dimensional sketch. Straight away, Inventor gives us the option of what of the predetermined planes inside the software we can put our very first sketch on. If you're creating a file to be used in a CNC machine or outputted to a rapid prototyper, it might be very important what plane you put your first sketch on. So consider what plane that you're using each time. A lot of the time and early in this course it's not going to really matter. I normally just pick the XY plane. You'll see that the plane that I've highlighted there aligns with both the X and Y axes in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. Another way of picking a particular plane is to expand the origin folder in the browser. When you click the little plus sign, we then get to see the 3 default planes: the XY plane, which I highlighted earlier, the YZ plane, on top, and then the XZ plane in between. Pick the one that you're going to use, and straight away our view swings so that we're now looking at a 2-dimensional view or a 2-dimensional plane. You'll see that our icon in the bottom left hand corner is also swung to reflect that, and our view cube here tells us that we're looking at the default front view. This is the plane that we'll be creating our first sketch on. The yellow dot in the middle of the screen is the origin point. This is really a critical point, especially if the model that you're creating is going to be going out to CNC processing software or hardware. So make sure that when you draw your first sketch, you're aware of where this point is and you fix other points back to it and make it relative to this origin point. For those not familiar with coordinate systems, I recommend that you request and look at our fundamentals CAD course, a video tutorial on using XY coordinate systems. That's about all for the practical demonstration for this part of the course. Remember that in our next tutorial we'll be looking at actually creating using the sketch tools, which now show across the ribbon at the top of the screen, to actually draw objects on this screen. In the next of our video tutorials, we'll be looking at using basic lines and objects to create rough sketches on a selected sketch plane. We'll then look at using basic geometric constraints and dimensions to fix the geometry of your sketch objects in place. And then we'll look at finishing a fully constrained sketch so it can then be used later in a feature. Meanwhile, make sure you review this video tutorial as needed. Please refer to the notes supplied with the lesson and undertake any exercises that have been provided with it to increase your skills and give you more chance for practice. Remember, the best way to learn a new software system is to play with it. So give it a go. Trust me, you can't break it. Thank you.